All right, so get this. Today we're diving into something a little different. Science fiction.
Oh.
Yeah, science fiction. You sent over some excerpts from a story, and we're going to see what it can teach us about, well, some pretty big concepts. Time, for one.
I'm intrigued already. Fiction can be surprisingly insightful, often illuminating complex ideas in ways that, well, more straightforward approaches might miss.
Exactly, and the story we're looking at is called Aspect. It focuses on the Vex.
Ah, the Vex.
Now, anyone who's spent time in this universe knows the Vex are, well, a bit more than your average antagonist, right?
Absolutely.
What always gets me about them is their obsession with time. It's like time is, I don't know, a playground for them or something, or maybe a weapon.
I think that's a great way to put it. And that's where Aspect comes in, really. It dives into this idea that the Vex don't just exist in time, they use it like a tool. So instead of that straight line from past to future, they see time more like a map they can navigate. It's a pretty mind-blowing concept when you really think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder about all sorts of things. What does that say about their perception of free will, for example?
Right.
I mean, if they can see all the paths, all the possibilities.
Right. Does choice even mean the same thing to them? Fascinating questions to consider.
Definitely. Anyway, let's jump into the story itself. You sent over some excerpts from Aspect, so let's see what we're working with. The story takes place in the Black Garden, with that mysterious, undying mind at its center.
Ah, yes, the Black Garden. And don't let the name fool you. It's classic Vex, really a structure that manages to be both a technological marvel and strangely, well, organic.
It's funny you say that because when I was reading about the Black Garden, I pictured something. Serene, almost. Peaceful, even.
Peaceful.
Yeah, like a real garden. But then you get to those descriptions of the mossy Vex, and suddenly it's not so peaceful anymore.
No, not at all.
They even creep out other Vex, which is really saying something. What's the deal with these mossy Vex anyway? Do we actually know?
It's unclear if mossy is even an accurate description or more about how they're perceived, What we do know is that other Vex seem to regard them with a kind of primal fear. Almost as if these mossy Vex represent something ancient, inherently dangerous, even to their own kind.
Okay, so we've got this creepy garden, definitely not the kind you'd want to have a picnic in, and this is where we find our protagonist, Praedyth. He's trapped inside the Black Garden in this place called the Vault.
And the Vault, from what I understand, isn't just a prison. It's like it grants him this ability to see multiple timelines simultaneously.
Whoa, hold on. Multiple timelines. Like he can actually see different versions of history all playing out side by side.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. The story mentions him glimpsing the Traveler, for example.
Okay, the Traveler. Makes sense.
But here's the thing. It's not always the Traveler we know. Sometimes it's damaged, sometimes surrounded by unfamiliar ghosts. There are even visions of a broken piece of the Traveler with this shadowy figure in front of it. It's very strange.
Okay, this is where things start to get really wild. A shattered piece of the Traveler and this figure. Who is this figure? Do we know anything more about them?
The story is frustratingly vague. The excerpts you sent over say the figure is never the same twice. It's like a visual echo, changing with each repetition.
That's so strange.
It really is, which makes me wonder if it's even meant to be a who. What if it's not a person, but a symbol? Maybe representing something about the nature of these timelines themselves, or even the Traveler. It's definitely something to ponder.
It's a great point. It's like the story's giving us these puzzle pieces, these symbols, and it's our job to figure out how they fit together.
Precisely.
But Praedyth isn't just passively watching these timelines, right? He actually finds a way to make contact.
Contact? With whom?
With researchers. From the Ishtar Collective, no less.
Now that's interesting. How does he even manage to make contact with anyone, let alone the Ishtar Collective, from inside the vault?
That's the really wild part. The story suggests that they're communicating through the Vex network itself.
Wait, so they're sending messages through time using the Vex network as some kind of conduit?
That seems to be the implication, yeah. Transcending the boundaries of time and space just to have a chat. What's even more intriguing is that there are multiple versions of these researchers.
Multiple versions? You mean like alternate versions from different timelines?
Exactly. Each one slightly different, shaped by the timelines they inhabit.
So it's not just one message going back and forth. It's more like this web of communications branching out across multiple realities. Praedyth could be talking to a dozen versions of the same person, all at different points in their lives, experiencing different things. That's incredible.
That's what I thought. Talk about a tangled web. And it really makes you question everything we thought we knew about time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It challenges our linear understanding in a big way. And it makes you wonder, if the Vex can manipulate time and reality like this, what are the limits of their power?
So we've got Praedyth, our man out of time, stuck in the vault. But he's found a way to reach out, send these messages through time. But it's not just catching up on old times, is it? There's this feeling, reading those excerpts you sent over, that there's an urgency to all of this. Something's not right.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's definitely a sense of urgency. See, based on what we're reading here, Praedyth has seen glimpses of something bad, really bad, like something terrible coming.
Which is really saying something, right? Considering what he's seen, all those different timelines, all those possibilities, and this thing, this darkness he keeps mentioning. Is it a force? An entity? Or more of a feeling, you know?
That's what's so unsettling. The story never really defines it. It's more like a creeping dread, I guess. This feeling that something is wrong, something just fundamentally off about, I don't know, existence itself. And he's desperate to warn the others before it's too late, before whatever he's seen becomes inevitable.
Man, talk about a tough conversation starter.
Yeah.
All right? So, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but by the way, the future's looking kind of bleak. How do you even begin to explain that, let alone get someone to believe you?
Right. And especially coming from, well, Praedyth, a guardian who's essentially been erased from history, stuck in a Vex structure, sending messages through time. Talk about a tough sell.
No kidding. You'd probably be dismissed as crazy, even if you could get the message across. So what does he do? How do you fight fate, especially when you're talking about something as vast and complex as, well, time itself?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Because what he starts doing is leaving messages. Physical messages.
Physical messages, like writing things down.
Yeah, but not just on any old scrap of paper. He's leaving these messages on his equipment. Think about it. What's more likely to catch a guardian's eye?
Yeah, a message in a bottle. But the bottle's a piece of ancient guardian armor or something.
Exactly. It's brilliant, really. He's essentially creating these time capsules, hoping they'll survive the currents of time, eventually reach someone who can put the pieces together.
It's like playing a cosmic game of telephone. But instead of whispers, it's these objects, these artifacts, carrying the message.
And with stakes higher than we can probably imagine. We've talked about the Vex and their relationship with time, but this takes it to a whole other level. We're talking about the potential destruction of everything, and he's trying to prevent it one message at a time.
So while Praedyth is sending out his messages in bottles, what are the Ishtar Collective folks up to? They're still poking around in the Vex network, right?
Yeah, they're still at it, venturing deeper into those simulated realities. But the excerpts you sent, they paint a pretty grim picture, to be honest. Remember we talked about those multiple versions of them, the ones shaped by different timelines?
Right, like echoes of themselves scattered across time.
Exactly. And as they go deeper, they start encountering those echoes. And it's not just, oh, hey, there's another me. It's like a haunting reminder of all the paths not taken, all the choices that lead to different outcomes, different fates.
You know, I never thought about it that way, but you're right. Can you imagine coming face to face with a version of yourself who made a different choice, and that choice led to, I don't know, their demise?
It would definitely make you question your own path, wouldn't it? And then there's the constant fear of getting trapped within a simulation, of losing yourself in the digital labyrinth. It would mess with your head, that's for sure.
Big time. So it's not just the danger of the Vex themselves, it's this psychological pressure cooker they're stuck in.
Yeah.
But they don't give up, do they? They press on.
No, they keep going. Trying to make sense of Praedyth's warnings, deciphering those fragmented messages. They're determined to understand the Vex, to find a way out of this mess, and maybe even help Praedyth while they're at it.
Man, it sounds like they're playing a cosmic game of chess against an opponent who can see every move on the board, past, present, future.
And an opponent who may not even be playing by the same rules. We've talked about the Vex using time as a tool, but what if they're not just simulating realities? What if they're actually influencing them, shaping them to fit their own goals, running experiments on a cosmic scale?
Okay, now that's a terrifying thought. If they're that powerful, how do you even fight back?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? But maybe, just maybe, the answer lies in understanding the very thing that makes the Vex so dangerous. Time itself.
So where do we leave off? Oh, right. Our team of researchers is knee-deep in Vex simulations, trying to decode Praedyth's fragmented warnings, and all while this undefined, ominous darkness looms. It's like a ticking time bomb, but on a cosmic level.
And this is where Aspect truly crescendos. The story calls it a leap of faith. It's fascinating how the story uses the phrase on both a literal and metaphorical level. Of course, there's a physical risk involved, but it's also about confronting the unknown, embracing the possibility of failure even.
Okay, I'm hooked. So what is it? What's this leap of faith they're attempting?
Based on what I'm reading here, they're using those energy pulses Praedyth mentioned, attempting to synchronize their efforts across multiple timelines. The goal is to create some type of bridge, a portal of sorts.
Hold up. Are you saying a bridge across time? Like manipulating the very fabric of reality? Didn't those researchers mention that even the Vex don't truly understand how that works?
They did. It's a huge gamble, no question. But keep in mind, they've seen firsthand what the Vex are capable of. The simulated realities, the loss of their companions, even just the sheer weirdness of it all. They're desperate, they need to break free, find some way out of this digital maze.
And where's Praedyth during all of this? Isn't he still trapped in the vault?
Yes, but you can't forget he's experiencing time from an entirely different perspective. Think of it like this. While the researchers experience these timelines linearly, moment by moment, Praedyth exists outside of that flow. It's almost as if he's a conductor, guiding the orchestra from above, helping them find that precise point of convergence.
So he can see the bigger picture. He can see the patterns that the researchers are missing because they're so caught up in the moment.
Exactly. And that's the true leap of faith here. Trusting Praedyth's guidance. Even though they don't fully grasp his perspective, they have to trust that he's leading them towards something better, something beyond the chaos of the Vex network.
Okay, so they take this leap of faith, the energy builds, and what happens? Are they successful? Do they escape?
This is where the story gets a bit vague, unfortunately. Remember that line we talked about, the veil lifting? Well, that's how the story describes it. What that actually means, that's left for interpretation.
You can't just leave us hanging like that. Give us some theories. What could it mean?
Okay. Some interpretations suggest they actually make it out, that the veil lifting represents them breaking free from the Vex network, completely transcending the limitations of time and reality. Perhaps they find a new plane of existence, a reality beyond even the simulations.
I don't know. That almost sounds a little too easy. What about a different take? What about the darker interpretations?
Those exist too, of course. What if the veil lifting is more about a revelation, a realization of the true nature of the Vex, or that darkness that Praedyth is so concerned about? Imagine it being a bittersweet victory, a moment of clarity achieved, but at a great cost.
You're suggesting they might not escape at all.
It's possible. Or maybe the escape comes with a terrible price. What if they break free from the Vex network but lose themselves in the process? What if the veil lifting means confronting something so vast, so utterly terrifying that it changes them forever?
This is giving me chills and not the good kind. And what about that looming darkness? Is it ever defined? What is it?
That might be the most fascinating part of all of this. The story never defines it, purposely leaving it as an open question. What if this darkness isn't some tangible thing, some entity or force? What if it's something much more fundamental, something bigger? Maybe it's the inherent chaos of the universe itself, or even just the limitations of our own perception.
So, more questions than answers.
You could say that, but that's the beauty of Aspect, isn't it? It makes us reconsider our understanding of time, of reality, of the choices we make and the paths we take. Sometimes the most important journeys are the ones where the destination isn't clear. It's about exploration, questioning, and constantly searching for understanding.
You know, you're right. Aspect is more about the journey than a concrete answer.
Yeah.
Well said. I think this is a good place to wrap things up for today. The Vex remain a mystery. Time is a fluid concept at best. And that darkness. Well, I think that's something we'll all have to contemplate on our own.
Well said. And who knows, maybe the answers are closer than we think, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to lift the veil, so to speak.